My name's Peter.
Peter Thatcher.
I work for Google on WebRTC. I'm on the Chrome team, and we're in the Kirkland, Washington office, which is close to Seattle. And I'm the lead of what we call the API team, which takes the components that other teams work on for doing audio and video and so forth, and then puts that into a package that other developers can use to build applications. We're also in charge of putting that into Chrome so that web applications can use. Yeah, so last year I joined the Chrome team this year, and previous to that I worked on the Hangouts team. And I was on the Hangouts team since before it was Hangouts for about 4 years. So I know a lot of people on the Hangouts team. We work very closely with them because they're one of our big users. Hangouts runs on WebRTC. Well, I spend most of my time focusing on implementing WebRTC, and I'm very passionate about making it capable and powerful and flexible so that lots of different application developers can build lots of different kinds of applications. And I felt like I wasn't in touch enough with the community at large, with what people are using it for, and so I wanted to get out and be more involved with the community and see what's going on and how I can help.
What are you learning from this conference?
Well, first, I'd point out that it's not because of me. It's because I come on behalf of Google. I think the reason why people are interested in knowing what Google thinks or what Google is planning on doing is because the library, or the platform, I should say, the platform of WebRTC is so powerful and can let applications do so many things that a lot of these application developers want to know, where is it headed? There's been some discussion about where's the API headed, what features are going to be added in the future, what kinds of things are being done or can be done. And when there are so many applications built on a particular platform and the platform is evolving very quickly, there's a lot of interest in knowing where is the platform moving, how is the platform progressing. And since I do that, I work with that all day, every day, I guess I'm a pretty good guy to ask.
Yeah.
I think right now we're right before the 1.0 time. It's getting very close to the 1.0 spec being done and the implementations catching up with the spec so that they're finished. We're in the stage where the platform is being polished, it's becoming more robust, and the bugs are being ironed out. It's already usable. Like, lots of applications are already using it. As we mentioned Hangouts, and in my presentation I mentioned a whole bunch of different use cases that go way beyond phone calls. There's all kinds of collaboration, there's data sharing, there are hardware devices. So it's already being used widely, but it's going to continue to get better. And so once it reaches the 1.0 stage, which is getting very close, then it will be a lot more stable as far as something that you can build on and not thinking that it's going to move much. After that, I have great hopes for 1.1 being even better. So we're already thinking about where we want to go with there. We don't want to let that disrupt any progress in finishing 1.0, but we want to think of the future and what can come next. We're always trying to think what can come next, and maybe even beyond that, what things are possible. But right now we're at the pre-1.0 stage.
Okay, good.
So one thing I learned from this conference, which I'm very happy about, is that there's a lot of community around learning how to use WebRTC. There was a presentation with, I think it was webrtcbook.com, where they have a book. And it's got a lot of example apps, or example code, I should say, that builds kind of a demo application. And that's a lot more approachable than the things that we just put on webrtc.org. That's a little more, raw for engineers that are used to this kind of thing. Whereas WebRTC book and other websites, there's one called webrtchacks.com that I learned about, that are more approachable for people that are coming at it for the first time. I would say that there is a learning curve to real-time communication applications for people that have not dealt with them before, and there's a certain mindset or way of thinking that you have to shift a little bit. Like, for example, when we went from old school web apps that didn't use a lot of JavaScript or XHR, the way of thinking was, I'll send down some HTML from a server, I'll do a post, I'll send down some more HTML, and that was one way of thinking. And then we transitioned to, okay, we're going to have a bunch of JavaScript running that does requests to an API that's running on the server. And that was a mindset change. And we can do a lot more. It's more powerful, it's more flexible, but it required a new way of thinking. With real-time communication applications, you have another different way of thinking that you didn't think of before, because now you just don't have a client and a server, you have two clients. And now, if your network goes out for 5 seconds with an XHR JavaScript type web app, maybe your XHR gets delayed, maybe it fails, you have to deal with that, but it's not something the user might necessarily notice. Maybe they're typing in a Google Doc, or they're trying to send an email right at that time when it goes out, so they notice, but it's a momentary minor blip. Whereas with real-time communication, if something goes out for 5 seconds, your conversation is disrupted, or your collaboration is disrupted. It's immediately noticeable by the end user. So you're in a situation where you need to make sure the app is working all the time, not just most of the time. And so that's kind of a mindset change. And along with that, there are the importance of latency is a lot higher, whereas with regular web apps, your latency is all about how fast can you load it and about optimizing that. Now it's not so much about loading it quickly, it's more about getting the two endpoints to have media flow between them quickly. And that's less about the size of the payload and the little tricks you do like image spriting and whatnot, and more about how many RTTs does it take in doing the signaling. So it's a different mindset, trying to think of endpoints and media flowing all the time and keeping the latency low versus client-server APIs and clients accessing data and so forth. So there's some learning curve, and it is a different way of thinking. And I hope that over time, the examples and the code and the documentation available to new people will continue to grow as it has been. I think it's still a little bit in the early days of that, but lots of good things seem to be coming out, and I'm happy about that.
And
you can basically go to webrtc.org, and there's all the kind of resources you want. I mean, the rabbit hole goes deep, right?
Yeah.
You can there's mailing lists, there's lots of documentation there. You can read the source code when you're trying to figure out what's going on. There are all kinds of stats and internal stats. If you go to Chrome internals, you can see all kinds of stats to see what's going on inside your application. If you're doing a native application, you can put it in the debugger and then trace down to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So you can go as deep as you want. There's a lot you can learn
Yeah.
about how things work underneath.
We'll post that. So